All right, everyone. We have a lecture. We are going to deploy your web app. Okay, so first question. Has at least one person from every team installed the Heroku DevTools and made a Heroku account?
Yes.
I guess I should ask the negative. Has anyone not done that? So I slacked out a message saying, please install the Heroku DevTools and create a Heroku account. Is there one person on each team who's done that? Okay, no, that's okay. Now it's a good moment. So the Heroku DevTools are at this URL. Which I slacked out a link to it, I think, so you can grab it from there as well. And we're going to be walking through these instructions, which are basically here. They're in the README for Boilermaker. So if at any point you're lost or you're like, what is she talking about? I'm just going through these, basically. And we are not right now doing automatic deployment via continuous integration. We are doing option B, manual deployment from our local machines. All right, so let's do like kind of a high-level overview of what deploying means. When you deploy your app, the reason we deploy our app is in order to get it on the internet in a way that's accessible to other people. Your app is sort of already on the internet. Well, it's at least on the local network, so you can access each other's. If your app is running on your laptop, someone else on this network can go and access it by typing in your IP address, colon the port. If the server is listening on the external interface, which I think it is by default, then you will, anyone on this network can access your website. But people outside the network generally cannot, because your machine, while it's on our Wi-Fi, doesn't have an external IP address. It doesn't have an IP address that is routable over the internet. If you look at your address, let's see. I have a lot of addresses. Let's look at EN0. This is my Wi-Fi. And it has this INET address, which I think is private. So let's see. Yeah, so addresses that start with 172.16 are private. So they are not designed to be routed over the internet. They're designed to be routed over local networks, and they're specially designated for that so that if any internet level router sees that address, it can be like, nah, that's an error. That's like a mistake somewhere. The reason we do this is because there are not that many IPv4 addresses, and so it is a little bit, they don't exactly cost money, but it is using a scarce resource sort of unwisely to give all of our laptops externally routable addresses, because they are, for the most part, not running servers. Because any server that you ran on your laptop would not be very long-lived, right? It would be running as long as your laptop was connected to the internet and like literally open. The moment you closed the lid, your website would go down. So we don't want that. Instead, to run our websites, we usually take all the code and throw them on a server in the cloud somewhere. In the cloud, in this case, means in an Amazon data center, probably. And we could use like Amazon EC2 or Google Cloud Engine directly. Those services are generally kind of low level. You have to install a whole operating system onto basically a virtual server in like running in a data center somewhere. And that's a pain. It's a pain, and there are security considerations when you have to like actually maintain the operating system on a server. Like you have to keep up to date with security issues and make sure that you're always running the most recent version with the appropriate patches, and it's just kind of hard. So instead, we suggest going with Heroku, which handles a lot of that for you. So the plus side of Heroku is that it's like a nice, it gives you this sort of, I forget what they call it, dyno. It gives you a dyno, which is like a server. It is like a process that's running somewhere, but they handle most of the operating system level logic. So you don't have to worry about what version of the kernel you're running and if it has some vulnerability. They handle that for you. The downsides to Heroku are that it is relatively expensive if you have to pay for it. We will not be paying for it, which means we will get the free dynos, which means that they need nap time. The free version of the Heroku dynos are probably less powerful than your cell phone, and they have to go to sleep 6 hours out of every 24. Yeah?
I feel like you just said this, but it passed me by. What's a dyno?
A dyno is Heroku's name for a virtual server, or really a virtual container. So the distinction there being a virtual server behaves in most respects like a physical one, like you have to install an operating system on it. It has like hardware attached to it, like a fake network card and fake hard drives and all that. All of those are kind of simulated. Like when you get a virtual server, you're actually getting a chunk of a much bigger, real, physical, dedicated machine. But you still have to manage like the operating system and security updates for all of the software running on the operating system. A Heroku dyno is an abstraction over that, where you get something that's like a virtual machine, which gives you, they basically make a lot of promises about what's available, but then they manage the infrastructure. So you get a bit, you're trading off control for not having to have control. Basically, like if you had to control all the security updates to your operating system, then you would get to, but you would also have to. And for most people, we don't want to be expending the energy to maintain the level of expertise to do that kind of infrastructure. That's also why they're relatively more expensive. Because it's easy, they're just going to charge more. All right, so does everyone have the Heroku CLI installed?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So even though it's like a virtual thing, is our code still living on some other computer, or is it still like just living?
Yep. Yep, your code is living on some other computer. We will actually see you can log into that computer and run commands on it. You can have a shell and access it. That computer it's like several layers of abstraction deep. It is they're called containers, so it is a container running within the context of a larger server that is itself probably a virtual server running on actual hardware. It's like layers and layers and layers.
All the way down.
Yeah, it's turtles all the way down. It's not even turtles. It's like, they're like, what's the thing that's like a turtle? They're like lizards pretending to be turtles all the way down. Okay, so everyone's got these set up now? Okay, great. So here I am in not the right directory. Let's fix that. Okay. Here's our beautiful store. As you can see, we haven't had that much time to work on features, but we've done some styling, so that's good. And we want to push this now. I just realized that I probably have some What's that? Oh, thank you. It's cuneiform. Cuneiform.
Wow.
Yeah, I was searching for something else, and I was like, oh, look, there's cuneiform letters that look really cool. I'm going to use some of those. Okay, so first I'm going to commit these changes. And I'm going to commit them to master because I'm a bad person.
Is the Sonic your computer's name or your Git name?
Computer's name.
Computer's name. It doesn't happen to be named after a character.
Yep, it does. Okay, so I'm on master. My site's still working. Great. So the first thing I'm going to do is, or the first thing you should do is Heroku login. Can everyone see that text? Let me, that's very helpful. So you should do a Heroku login. I will not do this because I'm already logged in and I don't remember my password, so I would have to dig it up. But it'll ask you for your Heroku credentials. You can go and enter them, and then you will be logged in within the context of the command line tools. After you've done that, the next thing you want to do is a Heroku create, which will create your app. So you can just say Heroku create, and it'll give you a name like Heroku create melting glacier, or it'll give you a name like melting glacier 275. If you want to specify a name, you can be like overly enthusiastic greeting. I'm not going to use that because that's just going to be too long. It'll be your login and password that you need to go and sign up with on Heroku.com. So I think here you can go to...
Oh, so you have to sign up.
Yeah, you have to go to Heroku.com and sign up for free, right here. And then fill this out. You can say full stack if you want, they don't care. Your role can be whatever you want it to be. You could say you're a professional developer. Won't that feel nice? You can also say you're a student if you like. Okay, so I'm just going to create and take whatever name Heroku gives me. I'm betting on Perturbed Puffin. Shit. And this is where we learned that I've done this multiple times, which means that I need to go and clear out a app. This will give you a chance to sign up for Heroku if you haven't already. Look at these names. Infinite Ocean, Murmuring Earth. That one I created. Okay, I'm going to delete this one. How do I delete an app? Delete app, great. Great. Okay, so now I'm going to run Heroku create and get some weird name. Great, Fathomless Waters. Heroku has a dramatic streak in its app names. Okay, so it's created this app for me. If I go to my apps page, it'll probably tell me something like, you have not... Yeah, welcome to your new app. You haven't deployed anything yet, so you're not going to see anything there. Yeah?
What do we do if it keeps just asking us for our email and password? Like, I set it up and everything, and I keep typing, I don't ever get to create. It just keeps asking for my credentials.
For your credentials on when you try and do Heroku login?
Yeah, on the command line.
Janelle, it did that when I typed it in wrong, so you might have to reset your password or something if you, because maybe you're remembering it differently from when you typed or something.
I just think it,
No? Still nothing? I wonder if I can conscript a fellow. Hello, fellows. Why don't... Here, we can work on it. Maybe someone else on your team can do the initial deployment, or we can work together on it after this. Okay, so here's Fathomless Waters.
It's owned by Salesforce.
Yeah, they got bought by Salesforce a while ago. Okay, so now I want to push my site up to here. The way Heroku works is that it creates a Git remote. Oops. What is it? Yeah. So Heroku goes and basically pretends to be a Git remote. And when you push to that Git remote, it has all kinds of hooks that run and actually deploy your app. So basically, you deploy to Heroku's production by pushing to Git. This is kind of nice but also kind of really annoying, as it turns out, because we want to commit things. We want to have things in production that we do not want to have on our dev server. For example, our bundle should not be committed to Git, but should be committed to production, which means that we have to kind of do this strange dance where we go and create a branch, we build our app in that branch, we force add the bundle and other build artifacts to that branch, ignoring the fact that they're supposed to be ignored by Git. And then we push that branch up to Heroku. So this is me justifying why there are a few crazy steps. But actually, the crazy steps are not too bad because we have a deploy script that does most of that for you. So let's just try doing it. I think if I do npm run deploy, let's see what happens. It's going to switch to a deploy branch. It's going to run a production webpack, or it's going to stall here forever. Signs point to stalling here forever. Nope, there we go. Okay, so here we built our bundle, we added it to Git, and now we're pushing that to our Heroku remote. Heroku, this is now all happening on Heroku. So Heroku detects that we're using Node.js, it configures our Node.js container, and then it now starts installing Node modules, which will take forever.
Does it matter at all where we are? Like right now, I'm looking inside our project folder on things. Does that matter at all?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. And the command was what again?
npm run deploy. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like we have deployed. Let's go check it out. Fathomless waters. Please show me them. So something is going wrong, I think. Or something is going right. It's a little hard to say because, as I said, this dyno is probably less powerful than your cell phone, and so it's not necessarily the fastest. But I think at this point we can conclude that something is wrong. So let's go look at the logs and try and figure out what's wrong. There's a couple of ways of seeing the logs from your server. One is to go into the Heroku dashboard somewhere. The other is to run Heroku, I'm going to clear, Heroku logs. And I think if I do, let's just try that. Okay, so here are the things that my server has spit out. This is stuff from the Heroku container. So it's saying it's scaled a web dyno, it's deployed this release that I just pushed, and now these are console logs from our app, and it looks like, oh yeah, we never provisioned a database. So SQLize is trying to connect to some database, and I'm not even sure what it's trying to connect to. But in any case, there's no database server around for it to connect to. When you're running in dev mode, the database runs on your laptop. Obviously, the production database should not be on your laptop because that's an even worse idea than running the web front end on your laptop. So what we need to do is provision a Postgres database to run on Heroku, which we can do with this handy-dandy command that I'm going to pull from here. Here we go. Heroku add-ons create Heroku PostgreSQL hobby dev.
Austin, do we have those instructions?
Yeah, they're in your README, in the boilerplate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if I run this, this database is empty. Fine. And now I think I can do Heroku restart, maybe, which basically restarts the server. And so now if I load my page, I should see things. If you run Heroku logs -- tail, it'll just continuously stream the logs from the remote. Oh wait, and it looks like it's working. Oh yeah, here we go. Our site is now deployed.
So the persistent database.
Are we supposed to be coding along?
Yes.
Okay. Because that went fast for me.
Okay, so the two things we did were npm run deploy. And actually, before that, you can run this command. So provision the, and then npm run deploy. So these are the two things that should lead to your app being deployed with a database that is unfortunately empty.
Yeah.
Oh, Sam. Sorry. Why is the projector like that? Okay. Okay. So those are the commands. Who's having issues? Okay. I will come help. Everyone else. Okay, so once you run those things, you will have your app deployed and the database will be empty. Your task for the next 5 minutes is to try and figure out how to make your database not empty. So how to run your seed script. But on production.
try to like build a thing, I'm just trying to.
So we can do
This is kind of like let's just and then yeah. Oh, it's not.
Okay, so when you do Heroku, you're just making a site and then that you enter a month or you put into the site.
Oh, because you have to do the local one. I think mine is set up to. Okay, that's why you can have access to it. But
All right. Okay, so who's gotten to this point where you have your app up, but probably your store is empty? Okay. Yes? Who has not gotten to that point? Wait, I just saw that you got to that point. What's that? Oh, who is at this point where your app is deployed? Not yet. Is it, what's that? Yeah.
So actually, is this to our master? Okay, I just commented out. Okay, so I need to do that again. Sorry. Oh, I ran that. But we're getting touched. Okay.
You can check out a random email. Maybe I shouldn't have removed the entire app. Okay. So you have, by this point, almost everyone has the store deployed, but your store is empty. There are no products. So we have to run our seed script in order to get all that seed data in there. Does anyone have an idea of how we might do that?
It looks crazy from the You have to change the URL, because right now our database is on our local machine, which has a specific URL, right? It's like 345. So we need to change the URLs that we're access to.
So we actually don't have to change the URL that we're connecting to because, so when we initialize our database, notice that we say, hey, Sequelize, you should connect to the database URL specified in the environment or to a database on localhost to determine by the name of this package.
Right.
When we provisioned that Postgres database, Heroku went and set this environment variable. I think we can do like a Heroku, let's try env. Nope.
So is that essentially going to like encrypt our data that's coming up from our environment, like similar to the secret?
It's going to, is it going to what?
Like, because we have the, like our secret, it lives in our local machine, and it's in the environment, so it's like hidden. Is it like a similar idea of access?
So your secrets actually get, I think, this is actually an interesting point. Your secrets should be put in the environment, but I think the way this is set up, they actually get like added to the deploy branch and then pushed. So kind of, this is, it puts it in the same place where your secrets should be, but where I think they might not be. Yeah.
So ours went out of the Heroku master branch, how do I
To
to the deploy now? Is that
you don't have to be on the deploy branch ever, really. It's kind of just a branch that's created and has stuff added to it in order to push that branch to Heroku. But you should usually be doing work on a different branch.
and like saved, like what we're doing right now, not using that branch?
Yeah, you don't have to be on any particular branch. I was looking at, let's see, Heroku config. Yeah, so if you run Heroku config, you'll see the configured environment variables, and database URL is set to be this really long Postgres URL, which I think we can connect to if we want. Yep, here it is. I just ran PSQL and then gave it this URL. You can also put it into Postico. And that is your production database, where all of your real users will exist and all of your actual products and orders will be, you know, like the air that you've sold today.
When you said that you provisioned it with the database, I didn't understand that, or maybe I just missed that step. How did that happen?
So that happened when we ran the Heroku add-ons create thing. So this went and spun up a Postgres server and added the address of that server to the config of our app as a database URL.
So that did it automatically. I don't recall you ever having like typing in some random like Postgres here. I have this thing. Like
No, it did it automatically. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we can access our database. We still want to be able to run our seed file. To run our seed file, let's just log into our dyno, which we can do with Heroku run bash. So Heroku run will run any command, but on our dyno, like on our server, and bash is our shell. So if I run this, then I'm going to get a shell that's running on my server. Slowly. Very slowly, because everything is slow.
Now you just do it.
So you do have to switch,
Here, let me. So this, you can tell from this prompt, we are now on Heroku, And our app is installed in /app. That's just how Heroku sets things up. There's a little bit of, there's some Unix user. What's that?
Nothing, sorry. It says lost and found.
Lost and found is where Linux machines, when they're checking the file system, if they find any data that appears to have been connected to a file but is no longer connected to a file, so it's like there might have been some file system error, it'll link that data up there. So you can find the stuff that you lost. Okay, so now that we are running on the server, we can actually just do npm run seed, or however you run your seed. And then it'll seed our database.
Oh, and because our script says take the database URL of the environment or the one on your local machine. Now, when you say seed, it's running it to the production database.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we could also set this as the database URL and run the seed locally. Like we could, I am pretty sure I could do export database URL equals this thing, and then do npm run seed locally. No, I couldn't, apparently. Why? I don't know, that looks complicated. Just run it off the server. It's designed to connect to it. Oh, I have to set this locally.
Now they're completely different, right? Your production code and your production database are completely separate now for your development code and development database, which is
Yes. Yeah, so your production code will be whatever you last deployed. Your production database will be whatever you last put there. And it's totally separate from your dev code and database. Yeah.
So how do you do, is it similar to like Git merges? How do you like update your app when you make new features and when you correct
So
bugs?
to update your app, you just run npm run deploy again.
Okay.
If you need to change the structure of the database, that's a little tricky if you want to not destroy what's in the production database. So my solution would be to destroy what's in the production database. That's obviously not a solution you would use in the wild, but it's the solution we're going to use now because we are literally selling feelings and air.
And time.
And time, yeah. Okay,
Which is not
who has a site that I can go visit? What's the URL?
It's dry toward the RY. I can just Slack with
Okay.
you. I just feel like it's
All right.
Oh.
Or actually, sorry, that was like, this is the listing of all the products. If you click on the header, like the store, then it'll take you to the homepage. And,
It's perfect.
but yes, you conceded.
That's gorgeous.
Doesn't work yet.
Okay, that's okay.
StarCraft.
Oh, and we can probably still do this. Yep.
We have it, we know.
This team knows what's going on, but I leave it as a cone to you why, when I'm near the edge, these buttons get a little bit twitchy. Yeah.
So we do in our, once we have the SQL running, then we switch over to a bash, then we run from the bash.
Yeah, so the commands are npm run bash, and then
Wait, it's NPM run bash
Oh, sorry, Heroku run bash. And then,
And then npm run C, right?
yep.
So, is there, what do we do if we do that and then nothing, we still don't see a difference? I mean, it said it's seeded, it seeded the data, and I can see it, but then when I go to the toy website, it's not coming up.
Then I will come help you. So then and this is it. That's the last part. After you're done with that, your app is running on subsequent deploys. So like when you change stuff and you want to update your website, you just need to run npm run deploy. Did you run the It's the first line. You can also copy it. You can actually just do growth. You may have to npm run deploy. You've done it.
Sub-server, virtual server that exists somewhere on it. And Heroku,
Yep.
and then Heroku, runs
I think, no, I think I'm just so depleted that.
But you need to do and if you configure the database, for example, you can go to start it as I mean, if we start
Would you now? Is our group in agreement? Yeah. Mario.
I would like to.
No, I know. I said it's located
Oh,